Okay, so here we've got case number 8, which I think has been a problem for lots of people. Kennedy class 4. This is difficult. So first thing we do is going to hash out the missing teeth as we did earlier on. So all we've got is missing 2 central incisors here. So we just hash these out as missing. And what you need to be aware of here is what's going to keep this denture in. Now the flange is going to keep the denture in because it's going to engage the soft tissue undercut, and the contact points, which you're going to get here and here, will provide retention anteriorly. So that's the flange. So most of the retention's anterior. What you wouldn't do is gingerly approaching clasp backwards from this flange because they would look awful and the patient would probably almost certainly be less than pleased. So first thing you need to do is get some support for this, otherwise this saddle's going to sink. Now some schools of thought would suggest that just covering the lateral will be big enough for support. If you don't support this, this anterior saddle will sink. So, and some people may say, oh, the laterals aren't big enough, so in that case, if the occlusion is compatible, you may actually extend the support onto the canines. This would be totally dependent on the occlusion. But for argument's sake, for what we're doing here, we're going to say this is going to work. So you've now got maximum support for that anterior saddle. So the saddle won't sink, and it's retained anteriorly by the option of the flange engaging the soft tissue undercut, and the 2 mesial contact points on the 2s touching the denture. What you want to do now is stop this denture dropping. So this denture will drop, the front denture will drop down. So you want to put some clasps engaging quite a long way back, and the undercuts on the 6s, of which there are none, so you'd have to prep them. So both the 6s we're going to use neither have undercuts, so you'd have to deal with that as a separate issue. But we'll engage mesial undercuts on both these molars, so we're going to bring the clasp this way around. Half arrowhead implies its retentive tip. Now you'd need to annotate this ordinarily, so if you're doing this for a denture in an exam situation, you'd have to label this prep some sort of undercut, okay? The same applies here. So you need to make some sort of undercut to make these clasps effective. Okay, so if you clasp a tooth, you know you have to reciprocate, so we're going to bring an arm round here to counter the action of the clasp. Clinical crown height is probably just about enough, you could do that. And if it wasn't, you might do plate. So if you're going to clasp a tooth, you have to provide support, otherwise the clasp will migrate towards the gingival margin and cause gingival trauma. So we do rests. So now we've got a supported saddle, we've got some retention, now you've got to join it up. You want to keep this gingerly free, so the denture base comes along here. If you bring a minor connector up mid-cingulum, it keeps the interdental papilla area clear. So the same along here. Denture base is clear of the gingival margins, but deriving some support. And then you just have a denture base that comes along here, like so. If you wanted and the palate was big enough, you could make a ring connector. If the palate was quite small, you may just leave it all in chrome. So there's the denture base, acrylic anteriorly, supporting the teeth. So Kennedy class 4, not easy. Don't clasp anteriorly because it's just plain ugly. So the patient would probably be okay with that. You need occlusal clearance for the rest. You need occlusal clearance for the arm coming through, but that's prep again. So you need to prep the undercuts on these 2 teeth. That's case 8.